Bases dropped on a wall past Wednesday. At least I think that's what today is. I have to look at my calendar quickly. Let's see. So today is Wednesday. So it is a wall pass Wednesday here at SDH. Morning, Alex. Still trying to dry out from last night. And thanks to everybody who listened to match day 1 of 3 this week when it comes to SDH and the high school game of the week presented by our friends at Kaiser Permanente. We were at North Oconee for the first time last night, and it was a doubleheader against Johnson Gainesville. The girls' side beat Johnson Gainesville 2-1, and Johnson Gainesville's boys earned the split 2-0 over North Oconee last night in what started as kind of one of those spitty, misty kind of things. And by the time that the night was over, it ended up being pretty much a downpour at times. And I don't know how many of you were listening to the broadcast, but we had to close that. Traditionally, the way the setup is, and I'll break the fourth wall here for a second. Traditionally, the way the setup is what we'll do is we'll have a crowd mic, and that'll kind of be hanging right on the edge of the window at whatever the press box setting is that we have. And once again, thanks to our friends at North Oconee for letting us come and crash their press area and their PA area to be able to do the broadcast last night. But we had the crowd mic right there on the window, right on the windowsill. And as the wind changed in the boys' match, literally the rain started coming inside the press box. And so we had to close the window, and then that meant that we had to turn the crowd mic off. And so what you were hearing in the second half was basically me, and any crowd noise was coming through the headset microphone that I had. So it was a bit of an adventure last night, but it was a split. And I give them both sides a lot of credit for persevering through all of that stuff that was going on last night. So once again, thanks to our friends at Kaiser Permanente for the Tuesday night throwdown. Tomorrow it is Clarkston and Druid Hills, 5:30, 7:30 at North DeKalb Stadium. And then Friday, it is Collins Hill and Mill Creek. That one for the SDH Friday game of the week. That one's up in Hushton, once again, 5:30 and 7:30. And that'll set us up for what's going on Saturday, because last time I checked, there might be a match that's going on Saturday where we might get wet. At least it's under a roof, watching the match part, but probably going to get wet leading into the match in and of itself. So, yikes. Yeah. So it's been interesting. But once again, thanks to our friends once again at North Oconee for hosting us last night. Still trying to draw out and thaw out from that. Michael, who once again is a solid 7-iron from Office HD, 3 1/3 inches here in Decatur the last 24 hours. That's just crazy. Crazy. So morning, Ricky. Morning, Alex. Morning, Michael. Outdoor pro sports are overrated. Yeah, so that's where we are. The traditional Wednesday, yes, the traditional Wednesday after a Tuesday, Alex. Yes, I'm trying to my days run together because I literally have like 9 calendars, and here's one of them. And so I literally had to check the calendar to see if I was in fact correct. And so, yes, it is the traditional Wednesday after a Tuesday. So thanks for hanging out with us on All Pass Wednesday. And Jarrett's dropping by this morning on the early side. Tyler Pilgrim set to join us in about 5 minutes. Jarrett, we got some things that we could kind of get into, but I think that for opening kickoff, I think maybe for 5 minutes, this particular topic could work for opening kickoff. Apparently, and you and Jason alerted everybody to this morning in Nashville for the CONCACAF Hemispheric Extravaganza. Apparently, Nashville SC is allowing opposing jerseys in the seated areas of the supporters section tomorrow at Geodis. They have a seated supporters section, and apparently you can wear whatever jersey you want. So,
yeah, apparently this is a change this year for Nashville and the way that they're doing their seating. So yeah, it's my understanding that they're doing like a different seating setup for the supporter section, and yeah, it'll be open to everybody. Hopefully, everyone can keep between the navigational beacons with their behavior.
Oh boy, yeah. I think this might be the first time that they're going to have to try to figure out how to keep it between the buoys with Messi and friends in town for the CONCACAF Championship. So it will be intriguing, to say the very least, when it comes to. I want to know, and maybe we can bring in our buddy Lucas Panzica at some point this week, maybe on Friday, to find out what the experience was like and see just what the percentage is when it comes to folks that are wearing the Heron stuff and folks that are wearing Nashville SC stuff. Apparently 104.5 The Zone gets the night off, but I'm sure that Lucas and everybody will be there watching. But, yeah, I want to know what the percentage is. First off, for a midweek match, obviously comparing Messi and friends to Mocha FC is not a fair comparison, but there were tens of people watching Nashville SC and Mocha in the previous round of the CONCACAF Hemispheric Extravaganza. I think the crowd might be a little different tomorrow in Nashville. That's just me.
Yeah, it's been weird, man, because like even Orlando last night, like it was kind of inconsistent with like, I don't know. I expected more people. However, I don't know if I'm setting unrealistic expectations with that.
Yeah.
So who's to say, well, yeah, it'll be an interesting little street fight they have. Because if for no other reason, like, yeah, Nashville, Miami is, again, Florida, that part of Florida is not really the South. Not that we claim anyway. It's almost like a horseshoe extension of the North. But this is a rematch from Leagues Cup final.
No.
And
yes, it is. It is a rematch of the Leagues Cup final. Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, it'll be fun to see, and it'll be fun to see who from Nashville is available, because the last few games they haven't had Hani Mukhtar. They have not had Sam Surridge, and they haven't really.
There's a joke in there somewhere.
Well, they haven't had a plan without them.
Yeah.
They got a weird draw with Colorado. It's just been kind of like without Hani being Hani Mukhtar, and Hani Mukhtar is one of the best to do it in this league that we've ever seen, especially when it comes to running those counters and fitting into that. Like when we talk about like a system quarterback, that's a system 10. That's not to diminish anything about Hani Mukhtar. It's not to take anything at all away from him. It's just that he fits it perfectly. He fits into that system absolutely perfectly. But without them, they haven't really had a plan. How do they deal with Miami? I mean, road goals still matter here. Do you just kind of batten down the hatches if they're not able to go, if they're not 100%, see what you can get out of it, and then see if you can go shock the world in Miami? Someone eventually has to finish chances against Miami, for God's sakes. I'm actively begging people, because thanks to Orlando, who I don't know if Orlando knows this. I know they played last night. Does Orlando know that they had a game last Saturday?
I don't know if they're patently aware of that, sir.
I don't know either. I kind of wonder if they just woke up Sunday morning, looked at their legs, saw like the skid marks from the giant tires that went over them, and wondered how those got there. Because they didn't seem up for the game Saturday. So it'd be nice if someone got up for a game against Miami.
Yeah.
See what happens.
Yeah, that was not pretty. And so we will discuss that and everything else with our buddy Tyler Pilgrim. And Tyler's batting leadoff, as he always does here on a Wall Pass Wednesday. So, Tyler, we've kind of bled opening kickoff into topic number one. And I figure since Atlanta United has had the bye week, we'll get into kind of previewing things with the Revs coming up toward the end of the segment. But with the what's the mug this morning, by the way? I feel like I have to ask. What's the mug?
This is the Mandalorian.
Okay. So he is a Star Warsian type individual.
Yes.
With the
Star Wars enthusiast.
Yes. Okay. So we were kind of getting into the CONCACAF Hemispheric Extravaganza and the idea that in Nashville, in their seated supporters section, otherwise known as the Triple S or the S3 or whatever you want to call it, you get to wear whatever jersey you want. And that means on tomorrow, when Messi and friends come to town at Geodis, it will be interesting to see the differing percentages of those who will be supporting the Herons, or at least wearing the gear, versus those who will be interested more in the guitar riff and wearing the stuff of everyone in. So it will be intriguing in the seated supporters section at Geodis tomorrow night.
What color does yellow plus pink make when you combine them?
Oh,
It's gonna be real ugly.
Oh, wait a minute. I mean, there's
It's
got to
gonna. I don't know that it exists in nature. I'm pretty sure the only time I've ever seen it is in the tunnel sequence in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
This is a new type of candy.
This is very much a new type of candy that is not approved by the FDA.
What is your view of what Nashville, being the ever welcoming town that it is, for something like that? You know, it's like, all right, in the seated supporter section, you're probably catering to a certain demo and a certain age group. So the folks that are sitting, what is your view in a seated supporter section that you can wear the other team's gear or any team's gear that you want? I mean, hell, somebody could be wearing Athletic Bilbao for all we know in the seated supporter section tomorrow. I don't know if that would be a majority opinion, but still, what's your thought about something like that?
I think it's dumb. Personally, I'm not a big fan of wearing, I don't know what kind of references I should use this early in the morning.
Hey, look, all we have to do when we put
Tyler,
this,
we believe in deep cuts, and at the very least, you and I are on the same page on 99% of them. So
yeah,
let's go.
this is true.
I mean, don't worry about it, because when this posts to audio, all we have to do is post the explicit rating and everything's fine. So go ahead and riff away.
Well, I'm just it's like, you ever seen the South Park episode with the Bloods and the Crips?
Yeah.
Or anything related to the Bloods and the Crips. I just feel like this is that moment where the Blood is walking up in Crip territory and seeing, Snoop or whoever, and things are going to go down. It's just not a good idea. I don't care what part of the world you're in. You just don't do that. You go up to Philly, and if you're not wearing Eagles attire anywhere around that place, then bad things can happen. I just think it's dumb. But also, Miami, I mean, you're going to have Messi jerseys everywhere. It doesn't matter what stadium. But the fact that you invite other teams' jerseys of any kind into your supporter section is just asking for trouble. I think.
Well, and did you hear when the Eagles, by the way, sidebar, and this never happens on a Wall Pass Wednesday ever, or on the morning show on the whole. Did you hear that when the Eagles were announced as the team that was going to Brazil, apparently they're going to be playing in a stadium where the rival for the team that they are going to be playing in is Palmeiras. And Palmeiras wears green. So you have the Eagles going into a stadium where the rival wears green and they hate Palmeiras. I don't know what the Eagles think they're going to do, because it doesn't matter what color scheme they have when they go and spread the gospel of the shield to Brazil. They're going to be wearing Kelly green somewhere.
Yep.
And these folks are going to say, I mean, honest. And if you are a fan, I'm going to put this out here right now. And Rich Ransom, one of our favorite folks, who is our resident Philadelphia Union fan here as a part of the Twitch pitch, I will say this. I will suggest this right now. May no Philadelphia Eagle fan wear green when they make this trip to Brazil, because the last thing you want to do is go into that barn and have folks sitting there thinking Palmeiras. And I mean, Philly folks thought that they knew how to.
Variants of green, though. Like, is it the modern green, or can you get away with Kelly green?
I don't know, but the Palmeiras, the Kelly green is a little bit of a lighter shade than Palmeiras, and so I mean, Palmeiras is that deeper green, but still, it's too close.
But it's Brazil, right? And so it's the same point with the Nashville Miami thing. I wouldn't go to any football stadium in Brazil wearing anything remotely close that's going to piss off the supporters in that stadium. Just not going to do it.
No.
Yeah, Tyler's point, man. There's a level of self-preservation here. Again, the best advice I ever got from an old Scottish friend was, if you are in a bar in Glasgow and someone asks who you support, just say Queen's Park.
Queen's Park.
Do not invite potential scorn, because especially if you're down there and it's Palmaris, it's whoever the hell. If someone asks you who you support, you're flipping a coin. Are you about to make a friend, or are you about to make a trip to the ER?
Yep. Yes, that is no true words have ever been spoken.
Yep.
Or can you just say like, I'm just I hope everyone has a good day.
Just here for the party, guys.
Yeah, it's like I'm look, bro. I'm just here. Here's my passport. Got it stamped. I'm just here for the party.
Just like I support. It's like I support the Forge in Canada.
Go team. Yes, basically, go team.
I myself am a Montreal Alouettes fan.
Yes. And you drop an Anthony Calvillo reference and everything's fine. Michael, one of our resident Auburners, he says it's not the SEC. Y'all know that he went to Auburn and wore AU gear to LSU, Athens, and Gainesville away, Iron Bowls, Penn State, etc. No fight yet. It's because there is a certain congeniality, I would posit, when it comes to college football. There's smack talk. There's no fighting. I mean, maybe short of an Iron Bowl. There's no real fighting. You get made fun of, and you get to run smack, but no one's pulling any kind of something that could get you in the hoosgow as an end result of something like this. Brazil, different. But like I said, it will be interesting to see what the percentages are in the seated supporters section come tomorrow with Messi and friends in Nashville FC. Atlanta United getting ready for a match. Last time I heard, coming up this weekend. Allegedly, possibly, probably, maybe. Sooner, hopefully, rather than later. Been a week and a half. You made a couple of trips to the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta practice facility. Now, as they're getting close to the home opener here in 24, what are some of your takeaways having the Columbus match now in the collective rearview mirror? They're getting ready. They learn from it. They're getting ready for the Revs. What's been the vibe when you've been up there to visit?
I think, it almost feels like the Columbus match was just another preseason match. This bye week has really just played hell with everything, but I think it's maybe a blessing in disguise, because yesterday we talked to Slish and Caleb Wiley, and they both kind of mentioned how this last 2 weeks has been beneficial, just in the sense that, you got extra time to have that little bit of bonding with the guys that maybe weren't there the entire preseason. Yeah. Almada being one of them. So, Slish said, not that you have to go out of your way to learn how to play with a guy like Thiago Almada. He knows the game. He knows what to do, right? Yeah. Just a little bit. Yeah. But, he said it's nice because now I'm starting to learn, his placement, things like that. And he's like, I fully believe I'll be able to make plenty of line-breaking passes to Thiago Almada to let him go in the attack, which is what you want to hear if you're an Atlanta fan. But, the vibe, I always try to pay attention after practice before they start the media availability, because that's when you'll have a lot of the guys that'll step over and they'll just start taking like free kicks, practicing crosses. And usually it's like Josh Cohen or somebody that'll get out there and defend everything. And there's just a different kind of enthusiasm, I think, with a lot of guys. You hear Yakimakis's cackling laugh nonstop. He's having a great time. The guys are having fun. They're joking around. And so, yeah, I mean, it just seems like they're ready to go. And all the guys that haven't played in the Benz yet are super excited to see what the Benz packed out looks like.
Jarrett, go for
it. Yeah, as far as guys getting healthy, we saw the reports yesterday that guys are starting to get back in training. Moscata being back on the field, Jamal Tauri getting back on the field as well. Any sense of how much those guys could give you in a game like this Saturday against a tired, what will almost assuredly be a tired and winless New England team?
I wouldn't expect too much out of Derek Etienne. Yeah. I just don't think with what he had going on, he's going to be quite ready. And, knowing Pineda, I wouldn't bet on Edwin Mosquera making that like 70th minute appearance like he tended to last year. I think they're probably going to save both of them if they possibly can. But, if something happens, knock on wood, I know Tommy's here watching. He's going to get angry at me by saying this. But if something happens to Yakimakis, I think Tiare is good to go, because they did a scrimmage Saturday. and Pineda had mentioned that Tiare's been back from concussion protocol. He's been fully training for a few days now. He participated in the scrimmage, played the whole time. So I see Tommy. Be quiet, Tommy.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I knocked on wood.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think out of the three that were kind of out and waiting, I think Tiare would be the biggest bet to get any time if it came down to that.
And you're going up against a team in New England that went up against a standing on his head. Yes, I use the goalie cliche, Sean Johnson, who had a couple of point blanks and a couple of rockets up at Foxborough that he defended well. And, you know, it's amazing what happens when you have Toronto FC players who actually will go back and defend in addition to try and be the fulcrums for them offensively in a 1-0 win. So they pinned in Carlos Heel. Literally, it's like, all right, he's got the ball, 2 or 3 immediately collapse on him, and you end up with no result. Then you've got CONCACAF Champions League, the Hemispheric Extravaganza. They've got to deal with that. And you wonder what Caleb Porter is going to do lineup-wise. Is he going to continue to push the lineup that he has? You go, say, first choice on the weekend against Toronto. You figure first choice this week in the CONCACAF Hemispheric Extravaganza to try to put up a number to give you a cushion. So do you rotate on the weekend, or do you put the first choice out there hoping after you've put up a number this week during Monday through Friday that you can afford not to do it for the second leg? And so this is the intrigue, the Palace intrigue, I think, that we're staring at with the Caleb Porter and the Revs.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's so early in the season. I mean, I don't know how he thinks. I think it's so early that you have to kind of go for it. I would, if it were me, I would be playing a first choice starting 11. But you also have to remember that Carlos Hill, less than a week ago, was having issues with a tight Achilles.
Mm-hmm.
And I won't get into the Achilles and turf conversation, but I don't know if that's going to be on their mind. Anytime anybody said, hey, you need to take a break because of your Achilles, I would listen to them. So, you know, I just don't know that maybe he comes on late because, yeah, you're going to have that midweek action going on. And they're playing at home, right, for the Champions Cup?
If I'm not mistaken, yes.
So it's not like you're going to have a ton of travel to deal with. So I mean, I think you go for it. Now, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if you start seeing changes like the 60th minute for sure.
Yeah, it is tonight at 6 at Foxborough against our friends from Alawalense. They are part of the triple header at 6, 8, and 10 tonight. Revs hosting Alawalense at 6. Hell in a Shell has Columbus and Houston at 8. And then at the Estadio Akron, it is Club America and Chivas at 10 o'clock. So 6, 8, and 10 tonight. But yeah, the early match, and they get it out of the way, is the Revs and our buddies from the Costa Rican League, Alawalense. So that is that's the rundown for what you're staring at when you're looking at the Revs. And Tommy says Tyler's moonlighting on other soccer shows. We believe here on the morning show to extend our hand. We extend our hand across the mythical creek that is the sport of soccer and the storylines that happen every single week. And so this is a normal time slot for Tyler to extend his hand, to shake our hand, to have a shared experience here on the morning show. That's what we've established here. So Tyler has to put up with our nonsense and our shenanigans in this time slot on a weekly basis, Tommy. So it is not moonlighting, it is sunlighting, technically.
Look, we trade off because he comes here and does this. I crash their streaming parties. It's fine.
Yes. Yes, and watch me get absolutely marauded by Paolo on the show.
As if any of us would have done any better.
You know,
you stepped into the ring.
Hey, man.
That was like that 1950s. You're going to go in there and fight a chimpanzee for 3 minutes, and if you come out, you're making it. You know,
it's a circus fair event.
Some money. I scored one goal. I scored a goal, and I'll always have that with me.
Yes. So
he decided to go box. He decided to go box a kangaroo.
Yes. Yeah. It's like fight the circus bear. That's what Tyler ended up doing. Seriously. What was that experience like? Now that you have survived it and can live to tell the tale, what was that like having to go into the Lions Den against Paolo? And I mean, dude is like a multi-time champion. I mean, he has the belt. And
Yep.
so you're like the guy at the beginning of Superstars of Wrestling going up against the champ in that 3-minute squash that they need to just kind of fill time for the opening monologue. What was that like going up against Paolo?
It was painful. There was a lot of noises that came out of me that probably shouldn't have came out on a live stream when I was just trying to keep the ball at somebody's feet. And it's like you turn the difficulty, all the way up past world class or whatever, right? Like it
Well,
was,
turn it up to 11 because it's one more than 10.
yeah, it was like he had this Jedi, sixth sense kind of force thing going on where anytime I would pass the ball, it was just like he knew where it was going and he already had a player there to intercept it. And then he was going the other way and he rarely misses, but I didn't feel so bad. So I was crushed a little bit, right? I knew I was going to get destroyed, but then they had the League Series 2 matches over the weekend, right? We did the stream on Wednesday. And then he goes and absolutely dominates the first couple of rounds and days in the competition. And he beat LAFC's player 9-2. And I felt a lot better about myself. And then the next day, I don't even know what the final score was, but he had beat somebody. I think it was Vancouver, maybe. In the 25th minute, it was already 6-0. So I was like, I don't feel so bad about myself anymore because they're professionals. So I'm okay with that.
I mean, Jarrett Paolo has sent folks just rage quitting in the past in these tournaments, and that's been a fun watch to see folks going up against Paolo and just basically spiking their players and rage quitting in the middle of a match.
Hey, look, you did better than I would have done because I probably wouldn't have gotten into the ring in the first place. And then if I had, it just at a certain point, I'm just popping off like 30-yard bombs just to see if I can make something weird happen. And yeah, it is a pros versus Joes matchup to Ricky's point. Also to Ricky's other point, it's not as if we're not going to be sitting here doing this in like a month's time, I think, when the re-releases of Star Wars Battlefront come out. Not like the 2017 versions, but like the 2006 versions are getting remastered and re-released. So that's where you'll find us.
I mean, that y'all are going to be spending some money, and yes, Ricky, you need to bring back pros versus Joes. That is a Ricky point. And Jarrett's thinking about it.
I'm trying to find a way to do it on a local level.
Yes. So we will let you.
Nothing good's going to happen.
Yeah, well, we'll figure it out. Let's go around Major League Soccer on the weekend that was, and as we get ready for Atlanta United and the Revs. I had posited at the beginning of the season about Messi and friends that because of no schedule compression and no multiple competitions and no leaving people and coming back and having to worry about multiple matches in a week, that kind of a thing, that they would try and sprint out to a number, try to rack up as many points as possible and hang on. And they embarrassed the ever-loving Ish out of the purple team last week, and it was over early. What'd you think about that one?
I think, Orlando just never got out of bed that morning, but I guess it just irritates me with Miami because, look, I'm not a coach. I like to think I know a little bit about this game, though. And it just drives me crazy knowing how bad of a defense Miami has. And yet everybody just sits there and allows Messi to get on the ball, allows, shaky knees to get on the ball and whoever else. And just they try to get into a low block or something and sit and wait for literally the best player in the world to do what he does. Like, take the ball away from him. You're talking about Carlos Hill earlier and how they kind of kept him in check. Caleb Wiley talking yesterday at the training ground. Hey, when it comes to Carlos Hill, we just need to not allow him to get the ball. Usually when you have a pretty good number 10 on your team, that's what you do, right? But yet Orlando comes out there and they just look at Messi and they look at Suarez and everybody else and give them time to get on the ball. But you've seen it already this season. If Miami has a little bit of pressure, go back to that first match. That game should have gone totally the other direction because they caused so many turnovers in Miami's own third that, the game literally should have been over within like 25 minutes into the second half. Like it was so bad.
But RSL wasn't clinical.
What's that?
RSL wasn't clinical. They didn't finish.
No, not at all. Yeah, they just missed every chance they had, which is wild. But they were doing all the right stuff up until that point. They were causing the turnovers, and Orlando's a better team than that. I mean, I know I said it last week. I hate to give them that much credit, but they are a good team. They just crapped the bed last week. It was so bad.
Not that folks would sit there here in our footprint and sit there and complain about the purple team crapping the bed, but
Yeah.
yes, it was against Messi and friends.
Yep.
Jarrett, what else is on your mind in the Major League Soccers that do not involve what happened with Atlanta United since they had the week off?
Well, I'm a personal fan of hanging out around the gallows as often as humanly possible. So let's play first to the top of the mountain, or first to the bottom of the valley, I suppose. Because I know a lot of the conversation's been on Josh Wolf being that guy who a lot of people thought would be the first one fired. Are we really convinced that NYCFC won't be the first one firing a manager?
True. Nick Cushing, you're on the clock.
I had my money on Nashville.
Oh, you did?
Yep.
You had your money on Gary?
Yep.
I don't know if I had him first, but I absolutely had that as one this year, especially if they don't hit their maximum potential. My question is, what do they do after that? Yeah. Do they change their style entirely? Do they just bring in somebody else who does what Gary does? But I don't disagree that his name is on the board.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's kind of sad because I feel like they have all the makings of everything they need. I'm saying a lot of nice things about Atlanta rivals. It is really painful for me, by the way.
It's early in the morning and you haven't finished your cup of coffee.
Yeah, exactly. I still need another one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Nashville's got the foundation. I mean, they have the defense. We know that. But man, Leagues Cup wrecked them last year. Mm-hmm. They haven't been the same since.
And this is the thing. Sam Surridge was all over it in other cup competitions, and he was lighting everything on fire. And then he gets into league play, and it's just like,
yeah, like you gotta bring that fire with you everywhere, dude. And they just can't score goals. And man, but if they had somebody else with Hanny, or somebody else that could replace it, I don't know, but it's a shame. It's a shame.
It's a shame, he says. Just to let folks know what happened last night, there were not a whole lot of goals that were scored. Jared hits a button sometimes and he ducks out quickly. Last night, Herediano, our friends at Herediano, knocked off Robin Hood. Herediano was a minus 1,100 to get the win last night. They won 2-0 at the Estadio Alejandro Morera Soto, which is where we were a handful of years ago watching Herediano. Then goalless draw, Philadelphia Pachuca at Subaru Park. Andre Blake returned. And then Orlando and Tigres was a goalless draw as well at Inter & Co. Stadium. Inter & Co. Stadium in Orlando. And I'm waiting for the matchup with Messi and friends where you have Inter Miami at Inter & Co. and it's a road game. I mean, it's
going to go over really well. It already has gone over really well with their supporters, but you talking about wearing multicolored jerseys into the supporter section there. That'll be fun.
All right, so Emilio is asking your top 5. So when it comes to this labor of Sisyphus that could be a managing in Major League Soccer, obviously you've mentioned Gary, you've mentioned Josh Wolf. Who are the other 3 on both of your grids when it comes to the top 5? Nick Cushing, sorry, that's 3. So who are the other 2 on the board for both of you when it comes to managers whose seats are rising in temperature here early in the season?
I mean, you have to throw Pineda in there, I think, at this point, just because of a lot of things. I mean, he's been here now a couple of years.
Well, and it's also the last year in his contract. So
yes. Yeah. So maybe define hot, but like I wouldn't be surprised to see a trigger be pulled if things are not looking the way that I think everybody agrees they should with this roster for Atlanta come the summertime. Because at the end of the day, we can talk about players that could have been, should have been, whatever with Atlanta, but you have a really strong roster now at this point. And yes, the East is a gauntlet, but you have to be able to make things happen with this roster in MLS. So I think you have to put him up there. And then just for sheer trying to think of the right word to use here.
Entertainment value.
Yes, yeah, entertainment value would be actually perfect. I know he just got here, but their very short history indicates it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go with Dean over at Charlotte.
Okay. Because Dell in Charleston said, isn't Joey Saputo going to fire someone soon? Yeah, if he fired Laurent Courtois after their start, that'd be straight up Joey Saputo. So, I mean, that would make a lot of sense.
Yep.
But, yeah, Dean with Tepper is the owner in Charlotte would make some sense. Jarrett, who else is in your top 5? Who are your other?
Oh, man. I don't know that Gonzo's in my top 5 on this right now, just because I have the expectations that they'll be fine this year, especially with what we saw after the summer window last year.
Mm-hmm.
Because if it doesn't, if you underachieve, then he's going to move up that list very quickly, and that's logical at this point because of what you saw at the end of last year. With more guys gelling, you expect it to be successful. He's not like on my top 5 right now, though, of guys I'm casting a side eye to. But yeah, if things don't go well, yes, he moves up into that. I think he moves high up into that if you really start underachieving.
Yeah.
All that being said, I don't. Dean would be an interesting one. They also just dropped $8 million on a new winger.
Yeah.
They still have another open DP spot. I still feel like Charlotte's front office kind of made it really weird because they did
on patrol. Exactly.
Well, and they did all their business at the end of the window, so now they're having to go chase people.
Yeah.
They're having to go get guys who are kind of on the outs at clubs, so clubs don't have to necessarily replace them like Leia Labata.
Yeah.
However, yeah, man, if Gary can't get things moving, Gary's an interesting one. And then what do they do for an interim at that point? Because your 2 manager there in Huntsville is Jack.
Yeah.
Jack's a psychopath. And I mean that in the kindest way possible because I adore Jack. He is an absolute delight. But stylistically, Jack has taken out has taken out the welder and has welded the gas pedal down to the car. It doesn't come up anymore. He is basically a Mad Max driver.
I just have this vision now
of
Jack screaming into a monitor at like extreme close up, where he's just like,
wearing like spiked armor and Viking
helmet.
Any man who spends his like summer afternoons and evenings dressed in all black dress attire on the sidelines and doesn't flinch is terrifying to me because he's not bothered by the temperature. Clearly, he's just going to keep powering through.
That's John Wick.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'll give you one. Lucci out in San Jose.
Okay.
And I don't know how fair it would be because I think San Jose's ownership has absolutely dropped the ball.
Yeah, because they're focused on the A's.
In terms of building out this roster, I think they've absolutely screwed up in not restocking because we saw San Jose last year. They weren't a bad team.
Nope.
And now they look pretty pathetic. Ricky Wolf's on that list, man. He's got to be. If the Galaxy struggle, Vanny's on that list, especially everything for the same reason I think that you would put Gonzo on a list, in the sense that you have handed him a lot of weaponry and you're expecting something
and Ricky Pouge, and if you don't finish top 4, that's a you problem.
Yeah. I don't know that they would do it, and this would be my wild card. And we can talk about it tomorrow.
Herdman.
No. Schmetzer.
Ooh. That's spicy.
Ooh, Nico Moreno at 10:30 tomorrow morning.
I know, but De La Vega's already hurt. He's gonna miss 8 weeks.
Oh man.
They cannot right now they cannot hit water if they fell out of a boat. Their personal hell, I think, is if Phil Neville finishes top 4 in Portland. Sartini continues to do What I thought, I thought with Vancouver he was overachieving. He's doing a good job. Man, if Seattle struggles here, what if Seattle gets antsy?
Ricky thinks that Schmetzer might get the Pete Carroll treatment.
Yeah, we're not going to fire you. We're going to ask you to join the front office, but we don't want you on the sideline.
Yeah, we're just going to kind of ease you over here.
We're going to give you a new office.
Yeah,
that would be my blindsided with a 2x4, like Antonio Brown level CTE decision. If you asked me to put a fifth wild card in there,
okay,
is if Seattle struggles into the summer, that Schmetzer would be on that seat, and we can ask Nico about it.
Yeah, Emilio, it's only one match, but is the purple team honing to be up and down as in the past and talking about Oscar Pareja?
It's the thing, man. So I don't know how much y'all saw this last year, but even when he was out of contract, Orlando fans were torn on whether or not to keep Oscar Pareja or whether or not they wanted somebody else, as if that man's not the only person who's ever organized that team into a playoff team.
Yeah. And I think that Tyler, that Oscar learned his lesson last year, where traditionally when we see an Oscar Pareja coach team, once again, they front load all of their effort seemingly. They want to front load all their points and then kind of coast into the postseason, and you see them drop and drop and drop and drop and drop, and they end up where they could have been a 2 or a 3, they end up as a 6. Last year, it seems like Oscar Pareja learned that lesson, and so he kept everything moving. You end up with the higher seed with the purple team last year.
Yeah, they were actually, I remember at one point, I don't remember why. It was something to do with looking at Atlanta going into the playoffs last year, but there was a stat out there that since I think it was the summer transfer window, Orlando was the best team in the league in terms of points. And so, yeah, I mean,
they were my pick going into the playoffs of team you didn't want to play.
Yeah.
And then they spit the bit.
And they were so good away.
Yeah.
That was the other thing.
That's the other element in this. A couple of other pieces of news, and I know that the fourth has held up the light board. And we are in stoppage time with you. Traditionally, I know, and so hopefully we'll catch up with Dylan Butler coming up at 10 o'clock. So the 7-minute warning, I guess, for Tyler as he's having his. Which cup of coffee are you on right now?
This is number 1 is empty now, so It's about to be number 2.
Okay, so he's finished with 1 and heading to 2. We have some news. Transfer tracker once again. Messi and friends moved Jean Mota to Vitória of Brazil. No real surprise. We thought that might end up being something akin to the one-time exception where you let him go, and we end up now with DeAndre Yedlin going to Cincinnati for the first time ever in modern history. I think, as I continue to joke, since the days of black and white television, I think this is the first time that we have ever seen an AM deal not end in a 0 or a 5. And this was 172,699 in GAM for moving DeAndre Yedlin in a salary dump to Cincinnati to clear up space so you could officially sign double nickel Federico Redondo and bring him in under the fold as a U22. Now the interest might have been repeaked with Franco Escobar and trying to get playoff Franco on a veterans max from Houston. And you're like, okay, I'd love to know how you're going to do it. But I think this is the first time in modern history that I've seen an AM number not be a 0 or a 5.
Yeah, which tells me they were very calculated with this move.
It's all right, math, carry the 1. It's carry the 1, figure this out. And now that means that while Redondo's in the midfield, that it looks like Julian Gressel will be your right wing back, or at least be shielded by the midfield in this, and have a midfielder perhaps drop back into something of a back 5 to protect Julian's defensive inabilities. Let's phrase it that way. It's interesting, but it once again creates another part of the front loading that we're seeing with Messi and friends. You do a salary dump for one of your talented national team backs, and now you've got your guy, you got your young guy, but you had to get rid of one of your veterans to do it.
Yeah, which, it's always going to be a risk with these U22 players. It doesn't matter how good they may be. I mean, I know he's not on a U22 deal, but Almada was probably one of the safer young guy bets that you had over the past couple of years. The U22 spots, I think they're great in the sense that, you can get a guy like Edwin Mosquera who can come in, maybe have a little bit of a slow start, but he can learn with the right guys in front of him. And then eventually you can either develop him into somebody that's going to be a solidified starter for the team, or other teams see the value. And then now you've made a profit, if we want to look at it in business deal. But
Yes.
I mean, I agree. I think Miami is just stacking what they can to try to push out as strong as they can, get as many points as possible. Because look, I love Lionel Messi. I understand that all of the media craziness around him
Mhm.
is just because of who he is. He is actually a humble dude.
Mhm.
I'm sick and tired of hearing about him. Sick and tired of hearing about him. But also, he, Busquets,
Jordi Alba.
Suarez,
Yeah.
all these
Alba.
guys, they are getting older. And, we can joke around about it, but they're going to run out of gas at some point. And so
Yeah.
you do want to use them while you have them
Mhm.
consistently to rack up as high of a lead in the Supporter Shield standings as you possibly can. And then you've got to hope that your U22 guys that you're doing all these bean counting mechanisms for can hold you down when they're not playing.
Yeah, Jared, it's like Kromoski when he comes back from hernia surgery. Youngin, you run. Noah Allen, you tap him on the shoulder. Youngin, you run. Everybody else is up front. So, yeah, this is great.
The only thing that I am hopeful for here is that Miami puts together, and they've put together this juggernaut of a roster. I hope they put it together and they win nothing. And they just end up existing as the San Francisco 49ers of MLS.
I would
Wow.
love that.
So does that make the Moss brothers, Eddie DiBartolo and John J. York? Is that how this plays?
Oh my God. I just, it's not even like I don't even have the negative feelings toward Tata like I do Kyle Shanahan, but
Oh, I know.
I mean, you can draw a roundabout parallel to,
Yeah.
man, look at how good San Francisco is. They're just so amazing. What happens when you get to the playoffs? We don't talk about that.
And you
And
can't
I
hang on to a
just,
lead. You got problems. And when it
yeah,
counts,
like
you sit there and you want to pass the ball the first 6 plays of the second half with a lead.
it would be amazing to me if Miami built this Voltron from hell of a roster and then just gets to the playoff and it just turns into like a pod racer that explodes at the line.
You see the engine blow up like at the old Atlanta Dragway up in Commerce. You sit there, you gun the engine, you punch it when it goes green, and then the engine just blows halfway down the quarter mile, and you're sitting there going, "Oh,
Transmission just falls out the bottom and then you roll over it.
yes." That's like the engine drops, oil's everywhere. They've got to stop the race, all that kind of stuff. Ricky, one last question with you here, Tyler. Who leaves first, Schmetzer or Vermes? I would say. Wow. I would have said Peter Vermes for the last 2 seasons because of how they started. Then they find somebody in the summer window and you end up with Zombie Sporting and they go just like Zombie Sounders and they make their rush into the playoffs. So, wow. That's a damn good question because I view them the same because of the expectations being what they are. Peter Vermes might just get to the point where he's just like, I'm tired of all this crap, and he'll tell you, and it's like, I'm out the door. I'll go upstairs, take my other title, and then somebody else can come in here and be the head coach of Sporting. That's a damn good comparison. Schmetzer and Vermes for different reasons.
I think Vermes, I
Okay.
think.
All right.
And yes, it's a coin toss because it absolutely could come down to whichever one of them is just like, I'm done at this point.
Yeah, Peter Vermes is like, yeah, I'd love Peter Vermes' exit press conference.
Yeah.
I'm done. No questions. He just walks out.
I'm retiring, guys.
I'm retiring. Forget it. I'm out the door. All right, time to hit the promo for us. What's going on at Scarves and Spikes? And you got some guestesses and some real important stuff going on. What's going on?
Yeah, we have our show tonight. We'll have Sasha Kleshtin on with us for a little bit.
There you
and going to chat about Atlanta and MLS as a whole and whatever other shenanigans we decide to come up with.
Well, we'll give you a shenanigan. Yesterday on the show, we solved the issue of the MLS All-Star Game for the second year in a row. And we had suggested as a part of this that the hot tag exists for anyone in the building. So literally it is, you don't have to worry about boards going up. Literally you have the hockey boards up. You can do like indoor soccer and bounce it off the walls and play it to yourself and all these kinds of things, but you can hot tag anybody in the building. And that includes broadcasters. But if broadcasters are hot tagged, they still have to wear their IFB and their microphone and come down from their perch to participate. And they still have to do both of their duties if they're hot tagged as a part of this process. Would Sasha Klestion be interested in getting a hot tag, but you can't turn it down? But would he be interested in a situation like that where in your street clothes you participate in the madness that would be the SDH solving of the MLS All-Star game?
I think he would. I think Kevin Egan would. We know.
Oh yeah,
Kevin Egan would be on
Kevin
board.
was our main example yesterday. Where Jarrett said at one point that Kevin Egan actually tags Kevin Patrick in.
Yeah, just totally, just Jekyll and Hyde hulks it. That would be amazing.
And then you'd have Sheamus come in. You'd have Drew McIntyre be a part of the whole thing, and then Kevin Patrick and Kevin Egan try to take both of them out with slide tackles. But you got to stay in your broadcaster gear. You can't change into something that's got like an MLS jersey or anything like that. I
think that would be great. I would love to see this.
Yeah. So what I'll do is I'll send you the link to MLS yesterday's show where MLS All-Star Game was solved by Jarrett, by me, by Nick, and by Maddie Cruz. So we will send you that so you can listen to it. It's a good 40 minutes. Round 2 is a good 40 minutes. Last year we did it. It was another 40 minutes, and we did the whole Royal Rumble thing with the smoke and the exits and the surprises and all that kind of stuff. So I'll send you to your email when the show is over this morning. I'll send you the links to the stuff so you can listen to it and have a reference point from what we're talking about. Tyler, my friend, it's always great to have you on. Go ahead and hit the promo outside of the show. How can folks get in touch with you on all the media that is social?
ATL Pilgrim, pretty easy. That's Pilgrim with an I, Pilgrim. So
yes,
ATL Pilgrim, pretty much everywhere.
And scarves, the letter N, spikes.
That's it
on the 280 character app. As always, my friend, great to have you on. It'll be great to see you inside Mercedes-Benz, hopefully as dry as everyone else, as we fight Mother Nature, who is always undefeated for the home opener in 24. Thanks as always, my friend. We will see you before we know it. It's going to be great to catch up with you. Be good. He's going to go get his second cup of coffee and go for it there. Jarrett, so we're getting some folks who are running through things. Rich has finally, I guess, recovered from last night, and Rich is in with us this morning.
Hey, man. Look, nothing about last night was pretty.
No.
But being said, if Philadelphia got out of there with a draw, now if you go down to Pachuca and you got two center backs back in play,
and your keeper,
and you go down to Pachuca and you get a goal, you're in business.
Yeah,
you kept them out of the back of the net.
Yeah,
and kept them from getting that away goal when you were missing center backs. It's not a bad position to be in. That was a damn near best case scenario for Philadelphia, and it wasn't pretty.
No,
I'm not even talking about the style of play. I'm talking about like Pachuca had chances.
Yeah,
but you had guys diving and blocking and not diving and like buying fouls, but diving to block shots left and right. And you had Andre Blake making saves. You had VAR getting involved correctly. Like, sometimes you've got a little luck to go along with playing a scrappy game.
Yeah,
you take it, because now you're in a situation where if you can go get just a goal or even keep it scoreless and take it to a shootout,
right?
Style points don't matter in these cup competitions.
No, not one damn bit. They do not. Dell saying that Schmetzer, being 4 years older, may retire. Yeah, and it just comes to the amount of patience you put up with going forward.
Yeah, he could. And that's not to say that I think he will be gone.
Right.
But if you ask me to pick someone like off the board, like way off the board, if Seattle struggles, I wonder if they could make a change.
Yeah, and so put a bookmark in Schmetzer specifically. And when Nico drops by 10:30 tomorrow, by the way, tomorrow's show stacked from beginning to end. Tonight, remember, it is the semifinals of the W Gold Cup. The U.S. has the late game, so that means that Bart will be cranky when he joins us batting leadoff tomorrow to discuss.
He's going to be in a terrible mood. It's going to be wonderful. And yeah, Rich, I agree. Style doesn't matter, and especially, especially in cup competitions.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the things that makes Philly so dangerous in those cups. Is I don't care how it looks. You want to get wins.
Mm-hmm.
That's all that matters. And if anybody gets mad at you about it, tell them to punch sand.
Yes. So you've got the U.S. tonight. Ricky's mad that they switched the games, but remember what they want to do is they want to get as many folks in that prime time window as possible, even if it's late prime for the East Coast and early prime for the West Coast. Paramount Plus, by the way, and probably Golasso Network. We'll talk about that at the end of the show to figure out where you can watch it and how you can watch it. But you want as many viewers as possible, and you're not getting the East Coast audience in any way if you were the early match. So I get why they changed it specifically for drawing eyes to that matchup. So yes, on this show, exactly. So yeah, West Coast prime time, late prime here on the East Coast. And so Bart will be cranky in the morning discussing win or lose. He'll still be cranky and he might be on his second cup of coffee. Then Jason from training somewhere in the 9:30 to 10 o'clock window. Jason will hang out with us there. And then it is the return of our friends from the USL show. Kaylor Hodges and his band of renown. I think he has put out the bat signal to everybody else on the show. So we'll see how many of us are in the ring at 10 o'clock Eastern time to discuss the beginning of the season in USL Championship and USL League One. If you missed it, the conversation with Mike Jeffries, the head coach and general manager of Charlotte Independence, is up on the network. You can listen to that. We're going to be having an interview with Mark McKeever, the head coach of One Knoxville SC. So we'll catch it. By the way, their Sunsphere kit, I like the kit. I like that jersey that they put together for One Knox this year with the model of the Sunsphere that they built for the World's Fair when it was in Knoxville. Nice kit. So Maddie is catching up with Mark McKeever. We're also tracking down some other USL League One. And yes, Dale, we are catching up with, we're trying to track down Ben Pierman to do a 1v1 or catch him live here as well. So getting ready for the season. 10 o'clock will be Kaylor Hodges and the band of renown from the USL show. 10:30, all of your Schmetzer questions will be answered because Nico will be in at 10:30. So Thursday's show is stacked from beginning to end, a bunch of different topics. And then Friday, once again, our friends from Beyond Goals Mentoring at 9:30. We can whip around at 10. And remember, it is Clarkston Druid Hills tomorrow, 5:30 and 7:30 on the network. SoccerDownHere.mixler, mixlr.com. That's our live platform. You can also go to the website, soccerdownhere.net, click through the banners, and you can catch through the stuff there and let everybody know where you're listening and where you're watching these kinds of things. Yes, cancel all of your appointments Thursday, especially in the 10 o'clock hour, 10 o'clock Eastern with Kaylor Hodges. Charleston is at North Carolina FC. So basically, North Carolina FC won the title and promoted. And so you're going to be going up against a defending champ or a reigning champ with your first match, Del, with Charleston at Cary to take on North Carolina FC. So that will be interesting. Rich lets us know that AO Philly's doing a late night bar viewing for the WNT tonight, as you should. Top of the hour. And so, all right, before, like I said, we'll see if Dylan can join us this morning because he is one of the busiest men on the planet when it comes to Major League Soccer. There are a couple of news items that I wanted to get into, and I figure what we'll do is we'll start with news now, and then if we have to dip back in and talk to Dylan about Major League Soccer, we can do that. But this morning, it came out before the show that Carlo Ancelotti might be in a bit of trouble. There's your tease, because you know what that means. Since it is 10:04, the busiest man in Major League Soccer is now joining us. So I teased the news for later, for after Dylan's segment. So here's Dylan. Welcome.
Thank you. I figured I thought my start time was 10:04, right? Like after the anthem and the
Yes.
right.
Spoken like a true play-by-play guy. Very nice.
Hey, look, man, we operate on TBS time here. 7:05, 10:05, whatever.
Exactly.
Because we're getting through the credits of Roseanne, commercial break, then intro, and we go.
That is absolutely true. So, Dylan, what we were discussing before you came on is, believe it or not, and we've only just started the season, but we've kind of gotten into hot seat conversations. When it comes to, I know, literally, looking at early results and wondering, okay, who would be on your top 5 when it comes to hot seats, especially after what we've seen for the first couple of match days. Nick Cushing up there at Dylan Butler Estate seems to be an early contender.
Well, and his hot seat isn't based on these 2 games, right? Like, it was pretty warm when the season ended. So.
Mm-hmm. And so it is a bunch of different folks that have been on the list. You've got Josh Wolf that is on the list down at Austin, especially after they lose their season opener to a substitute teacher and a roster in Minnesota. There's talk of, well, if things don't go well because of the resources provided to you, it could be a Greg Vanney. It could be, and Jarrett mentioned that Seattle's not allowed to have nice things with the De La Vega injury.
Mm-hmm.
Level of frustration perhaps in Seattle if things don't go the way that they want. Peter Vermes, who seems to be perpetually frustrated at Sporting just because of general nature, it seems, having to answer questions from the press.
Jim Curtin because of Philly fans.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Herdman in Toronto, Joey Saputo, just because he's Joey Saputo with Laurent Courtois. If the day all of a sudden doesn't end in a Y, then Joey could fire Laurent Courtois. Early returns, obviously, Cushing is a carryover, but who else is getting the siren for you here early on, and who might get the first early hook? Gary Smith in Nashville, maybe, as a part of the discussion too. Who's got the siren for you right now?
I hope not, because then if he doesn't resurface, there goes your impression, right? We're
not necessarily. He could be looking for work, and it would be, Gary just comes dropping in the segments. He's got stuff to do. He goes to the desk and becomes a pundit.
So his job interview. Oh, he'll be with Sasha and.
Or he'll be here on our punditry desk, and it would be just like, well, Dylan, we get to talk about things going on at Nashville now without a filter. Those kinds of things. So Gary would just show up as a part of the process.
I would say if you power rank them, I think you maybe have Josh Wolf 1 with a close second, Nick Cushing.
Okay.
I don't know if I would get too crazy with others at this point, but I think those are a fair shout for the top 2.
Yeah, no doubt.
I mean, look, there's a new boss, obviously, in Austin. Said, but you wonder what's the runway for Wolf, right, with the new boss.
Mm-hmm. Jarrett, what's on your mind to start things off with Dylan here on a Wednesday?
Yeah. So aside from getting off the gallows for a minute and all this fun conversation, I guess my thing is, of what we've seen from the first 2 weeks, is anyone actually going to bother to stop Miami?
Well, I think, and I think this is why they're likely going to be such a threat in MLS Cup. Like, here's a question.
Yeah.
Are they made to win the Shield or win like those quick competitions like Leagues Cup and even Champions League or MLS Cup, right? Like, that's to me the only or the biggest question for them, right? Can they sustain it across the course of several months and climates and everything and the travel and everything that goes with it? But to me, there's no doubt in a short tournament knockout situation, yeah, that's a team you don't want to face.
Right, and that's why my leanings are toward the competitions instead of the season.
Yeah.
And winning the pie plate and making a deep run into MLS Cup, because
I think they would do the same too, John. Like, if I'm honest, if I'm Tata, look, you realize what you have, right? Like, we're resting these guys here, we're resting these guys there. Like, they're gonna take like an NBA type approach, I think. Like, there's certain games they're just not gonna play. And as a result, and then obviously, international competitions and Copa America and things like that. So I don't think they're not going to have the pedal to the metal for the Shield. That being said, they could win 3 championships this year.
Yeah. And so literally this is going to be, I would imagine, one of Tata Martino's busiest juggling jobs with all of these different chainsaws that he has in the air with schedule compression, international competition, folks not being there, folks over 35, and all these kinds of things. And we were joking about it in the first hour, kind of somewhat tongue-in-cheek, where now what you've done, we mentioned that we were talking about the DeAndre Yedlin deal, and now what you've done is you've once again exposed yourself at the back where you front-loaded everything offensively. Your issues were at the back to begin with, where you didn't have a whole lot of depth. It was Kritzhoff. You'd gotten rid of Kamal Miller. You'd gotten rid of Chris McVay. That was a part of your depth. And so then you were relying on Kritzhoff and Yedlin and Avilas and all of the other young. And so literally your veterans were Yedlin and Kritzhoff, and then you had Avilas and all of the other young guys that were attached to this. And it's like we were joking about it. It's like, youngin', you're doing the running. That's basically how this is. You got all the offense up top. And, oh, by the way, Noah Allen, you got to backtrack. Avilas, you got to backtrack. Kromoski, when you're healthy, you're going back there. You're doing the running. That's what this is going to look like to me. I know that early on we didn't get a whole lot of overs when it came to totals, but I would still bet that you're going to have teams that will not be intimidated, and you're going to get into this back and forth where the over will be the play.
Yeah, and also I don't the Yedlin one, and I think if I can give credit to one of my colleagues, Matt Doyle had a really good, insightful take on that, on how it affects them, and sort of, listen, it makes a ton of sense, obviously, for Cincinnati, not so much for Miami, especially because Gressel's been playing so well where he is. You're not gonna, I don't think, put him as an outside back. That said, I don't. They found the way to bring in the players they have. I gotta think that there's a plan in place already, to find that replacement somehow within roster restraints. Figure that out. So.
Yeah, I know a lot of the discussion was out of Houston and bringing in playoff Franco Escobar and have him come in as with that cap number. Since you got rid of Yedlin at 875, you're bringing in Redondo as a young player who's going to be a DP, I think, eventually, once he turns 23 and beyond. Then you've got some space. You don't know how much space, because, and this is something that I've harped on forever, ever since the show started, about not being able to know really where teams fit under the cap structure and how much room they're dealing with. As National Hockey League guys, you and I sit there and we know what teams are dealing with and who's right up against the cap. We have an idea when you have an AM deal for, was it 172, 699 or whatever it was. And that's the first time that's ever happened, where you get that exact a number, which to me means that's how close to the top of the cap you were.
Yeah.
But the lack of transparency doesn't help here specifically, because you end up with a deal that was as specific as this deal was, to get DeAndre Yedlin to Cincinnati to free up space to sign one and possibly two.
And look, I think we're both on your transparency soapbox.
I like transparent soapboxes. Jarrett, what else is on your mind with Dylan this morning as we tour Major League Soccer?
I actually wanted to stay up in New York because I wanted to ask about the other tenant in New York.
Yeah.
Couple games, man. First off, Forsberg looks like a damn problem.
Yeah,
and
real
such
deal.
a beautiful fit in that system. But is Red Bulls evolving here? Because they look. I know it's 2 games, but to me, they looked more than just that. Press and break team.
Yep, absolutely. And I it was John and I solo last week, but I had said I feel like this team is a DP number 9 away from being a real problem. They've got a Lewis Morgan who's back and healthy. Forsberg is, as advertised, could be the early favorite for newcomer of the year. And you've already got that system of just being a pain in the to play against, and being so solid defensively. So, they seem to be a few pieces away last year, especially in the attacking third. But now you've got 2 of those pieces. I think, again, if you can get that one more piece, And I know everyone in MLS would love a DP number 9.
Yes.
But if they could find that guy that fits their system as well, yeah, I think they could be. You could almost argue a cup contender at this point.
Yeah, especially if the brackets fall out a certain way and you get favorable matchups, and you've got to get home field advantage. You've got to get that top 4 to be a part of this. I think that if you are of a system, and we found this out with All Caps SC last season with St. Louis, that during the regular season, the way that you're structured, you're going up against that pitcher that just got the call up from the minors and you don't have book on him. And so he'll go 5 1/3, give up a run, a couple of hits, and then you pull him. And then how you adjust his second time through the league is what we found out with St. Louis last year. You get into a playoff format in that system, St. Louis gets exposed. I would think the same thing could happen with Red Bulls because it is a system. You're going up against it. It's like going up against the Veer or the triple option. It's different. It's only once in the regular season they can come and get you, but then in a playoff series, it's something entirely different, and you can make those adjustments against something like Red Bulls. So that would
and that's why too. I think you've seen them win win the Shield a couple times and not win MLS Cup, right? Because you make the adjustment, and playoff soccer is obviously playoff soccer. It's different. It's a different animal altogether.
Halftime with Dylan Butler at Dylan_Butler on the 280 character app OSDB Sports. Varsity Media on the YouTubes, where he gets to traverse the tri-state and go over all of the great talent on the high school level.
Busy time for that.
Yeah, man, you ain't kidding, especially with championships in one sport and leading into spring sports in the other. And MLSsoccer.com, hanging out with us as he always does here in hour number 2 on Wednesday. Yesterday, we got word that the disciplinary committee is off and running this year. And Disco found that Cincinnati, speaking of Cincinnati, was in violation of the mass confrontation policy in the 43rd minute of their match against Chicago Fire back on the 2nd, 4 days ago. Violated the mass confrontation policy for the first time this season, and an official warning. I feel like I need special reverb behind me when I use those words. Official warning.
I also feel like you need to, when you talk disco, you need some Studio 54 music going on.
Absolutely true. And get the robot voice from Lost in Space to talk about official warning issued to the club and head coach Matt Noonan. Yes. Due to their roles in mass confrontation, Matt Miazga, color me surprised, Lucho Acosta, Obena Wobodo, and forward Aaron Bupenza were fined an undisclosed amount for inciting and or escalating a mass confrontation. So Ali Ahmed also fined at Vancouver as a part of the early disco decisions. But the reason that I bring up the disco procedures from March 2nd and the actions has to do with what we're currently seeing in the middle, and not as much attention, obviously, to the ARs and the fourths and such. But it has been a couple of match weeks with these officials as the labor dispute is still ongoing, and we're still waiting for federal mediation and trying to come up with solutions which need to be done sooner, really, rather than later. What has been your week-by-week impression of who we're seeing in the middle and navigating what's going on the field with the replacement officials to date?
I would, if I'm absolutely honest about it, I don't I've expected it to be our often referred to favorite scene from one of our favorite scenes from Naked Gun, with Frank Drebin being like, "So everything is fine," and there's a fire and Pete is going crazy. It hasn't to me been that, I one of my I've got I'm watching MLS 360. I'm watching all the matches on a Saturday night, on the desk until 2 in the morning, whatever it is. Listen, I think this week there was a situation with SKC Philly, right? That was Sporting was right. And obviously, the next move is a corner, and then the next move is a goal, and now it cost Sporting 2 points.
Right.
but those things were happening with with the regular officials at a pretty regular rate as well. So I don't, I'm not trying to toe the company line or anything like that. Like I don't think, to me, they've been a big issue, and I think, with VAR, I think there's cover there as well, right? Like if there's a bad decision on the field. So, and I think, VAR, I think in MLS, is significantly better than it is in other parts of the world. So, I don't, outside of that one issue, I don't think it's been a big, I don't know, talking point, right? I mean, again, like if you compare it to what the quote unquote regular officials, that we've had those conversations numerous times. So,
Yep. Jarrett, go for it.
I guess you got the refereeing side out of it because that's going to be my question. I wanted to talk about actually a team north of Kansas City. Minnesota still doesn't have a permanent coach in the building, even though he's coming. Hopefully, he gets there faster than the GM did. But
I don't know. I think they took a rowboat across the Atlantic.
I think they did too.
What's the name of this river?
Well, no, they took a rowboat, and then instead of landing in New York, they decided to forge the Northwest Passage and come down through Canada. But that being said, man, I mean, Minnesota's been grinding out here, 4 points in 2 games. When you're on, you wanted your thoughts on how they've started the year, even with an interim setup.
Yeah, I mean, I've always look, they've got one of the best playmakers in the league in Reynoso, right? And they've had injuries, which has been the scary thing to me, where they're getting results. They don't have their manager in yet, and they have some of their stars who have been injured. So I don't know if it's sustainable across the 32 matches or 34 whatever we're playing with all these teams, but I don't know if it's sustainable across the entire regular season. But yeah, it's interesting. I think, and I think too, like if you put Minnesota in the East, like I don't know, the East is such a beast that you're like, okay, they'll be maybe battling 8th or 9th and maybe 10th, but the West being what it is, like why not them, right? Like, and I think we're seeing that. It's what's interesting. I think in the West, like the Galaxy appear to be a better team as well, right? Like, so you put those two in the mix, and you would say after week 1 it would be like LAFC and Seattle are again the top dogs, and maybe they are, but I think you've got a cluster of teams below them that I think could fight it out, and I think Minnesota's proving that they're among those teams.
All right, we had a meteorological incident last weekend.
Yes.
And yesterday we played the sound from both Ryan Hollingshead from LAFC after the match and from Steve Cherundolo after the match. And obviously they were less than pleased with the conditions. And I don't know if there were any meteorologists that predicted that you were going to have decent weather, normal weather, and then you get through all of your pregame. 3 minutes into the match, you end up with thunder and lightning. You have to go inside, and then you come back out, and Jim Cantori's a happy man because you're getting thunder snow and various other things, and you end up with probably, a good drift of a couple of inches by the time that the match is done. What did you think about the orange ball alert that we had at Rio Tinto this past weekend? Obviously, you lose 3-0, and you're not going to be happy about it. Pablo Mastroeni, on the flip side of that, hey, you got 3 points, you scored 3 goals. The other team didn't in the same conditions. You end up with the Duke. What did you think about, A, that snow globe at
Yeah.
Rio Tinto and what was going on in that snow globe at Rio Tinto.
So this is funny. I had some county championship basketball games during the day, right? So I was in my own little cocoon there, and then I log in. Not again. I don't know anything that's happened, right? I log in at about 8 o'clock that night.
Yeah.
And my immediate thought as I look at MLSsoccer.com is, holy ish! Like, wait a minute, 5-0 for Miami, snowing, and a 3-0 in Salt Lake. Like, what the hell is happening today? It had that start, and we didn't even get to Cali Classico. I was like, that's always the one that's off the rails. So we start after darkish during the day. And the funny thing with I saw the talk ahead of Salt Lake was like, it was supposed to be rainy for the match, and then they would be okay. I think the snow certainly came in earlier than everyone expected. Listen, I'm a big fan. I'm not of Costa Rican descent, so I could say that I'm a big fan of snowy matches. You got to expect that. I would think with Salt Lake or Colorado playing home games in February, early March. Yeah, I thought it was fun. It was you always go for the you always get those social media clips of the snow angel celebration, the snowball fights that can happen between players. So yeah, to me it's fun. I get it. If you're LAFC, you're not big fan of the snow. I don't know if anyone in Salt Lake did the cold never bothers anyway kind of thing with their social.
Spoken like a true dad, dropping a
They should
in there.
They should have, I think. But yeah, no, to me it was all fun. But yeah, like I said, those two, as I log in, I'm like, what is happening today?
Jarrett, go for it.
So I wanted to ask you about Portland as well, because a rather maligned coach, Phil Neville, decides to go to Portland, puts together a really weird win in game one where it was kind of like, I think the XG was like lower than 1, but they're still popping off goals like crazy. And then a really weird draw in game two. What the hell's happening in Portland?
Yeah, and that's another one too, where you were like, I don't know, man. They got it cooking. They got 4 goals on like 0.4 XG, I think it was.
Yeah.
And then now you're leading Benteke less DC 2-0.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, look at this. They're gonna have 6 points in that first. Oh, wait a minute, hang on.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's happening late here? Oh, okay.
Yep.
So yeah, I again, I think that that speaks to sample size. I didn't see. I don't think like Evander's still out, right? Like I think he's still got some guys that are sidelined. So, I'd like to see his full team together first. But yeah, an interesting one there. And then the other new coach, one of the new old coaches, Caleb Porter, already playing games a little bit. Somehow, did you see the transcript? Someone's like, "Oh, so who?" I think the question was, "Who are you starting, like tomorrow or something like that?" And he's like, "Yeah, I appreciate the question, but yeah, I'm not telling you that."
Oh, come on!
It is like, could Bobby Wood play? And then he's like, there's a possibility Bobby Wood could play. Like he's just already like no fun with Frank DeLappa and the Boston press up there.
Seriously?
Yeah.
I mean, come on. I mean, now I'm trying to find the transcript really quickly to review the game notes, visit in minutes. Okay, so let me see if I can find.
And now Veroni's like suspended again.
I mean, man,
for their CCL tie, which could very well be a tricky one for them.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, it's our buddies from Alawalense. So I mean, it's something that, the second leg of the series on the road. You want to have a bye. You would have liked to have had the bye week like Atlanta has when we play them this weekend. That would have helped. But those are things you got to manage in this league. And we've been playing teams in the league completely fresh that get a full week. In Atlanta's case, 2 weeks to prepare, and we're basically just recovering in 1 day and preparing 1 day to play. So there's no excuses. So we will rotate this game a little bit like we've been doing, maybe even a little bit more, just to make sure we have energy and that we're fresh physically. We have to be smart because not only are we trying to win the league in advance, we don't want to get injured. So there's a lot of discussions. And so then Dave Romney playing 90 minutes as a part of no, I don't. Oh, you flipped the page. Okay, now I see how this works. As I sit here and I'm trying to navigate it. Yeah, suspended for 2 yellows, Vrioni.
Yeah, I think the sorry, John. I think the one might have been heading into their regular season, into their Toronto game. I think that was where he said that. But I apologies there.
No worries. Like I said, I was looking at the Alawalense preview. So yeah, Vrioni's out, suspended 2 yellows. Have to manage again the number 9 position. We're hoping that Bobby Wood will be available, and I can say that with a little more peace of mind this time. What's in the spot shadow this weekend for you? What do you keep an eye on that is going to be intriguing for you, sir?
Yeah, I mean, well, it starts obviously with these CCL CCC matches.
At the CONCACAF Hemispheric Extravaganza. Yes, we understand.
Tough ones, I think, for both. Like you said, I think when you've got the first leg at home against a Mexican opponent, you've got to get something out of that home leg. Like, if you're one of those super optimistic people, you're like, well, hey, we didn't concede. There wasn't an away goal. So if we can nick an away goal, we could win this series. And I'm sure that's what the managers will say or have said, maybe even last night. I didn't look, but that's tough for both Orlando and Philly, because it sets up so well, I think, for the Mexican, like if you've got a 1-1 is even better, I think, for a Mexican team, obviously going back home. But if you're an MLS team, you got to get something out of that first leg. So those were difficult results for those two teams. But you've got like a team like Miami that will have that home second leg, right? Against Nashville, and then we'll see what happens after that. But I feel like this is now the funner portion of the CCC, where you're getting more of these big time sort of matchups, right? In the round of 16. You've even got Club America and Chivas going at it. That should be tremendous.
No doubt. Hit the promo for me. What's going on with you with MLSsoccer.com, OSDB, and Varsity Media?
Yeah, Varsity Media tonight. Yeah, up at Fordham University in the Boogie Down is the Catholic League semifinals. So 6 o'clock, 8 o'clock games on the Varsity Media Sports Network on the YouTubes. Your boy Boogie Fland. By the way, Boogie struggled in the Archdiocese final, a game that Stepanek lost. That's kind of like your, SEC final, your ACC final.
Okay.
You're in the dance, but it's just a matter of seeding for the dance. So Boogie responds with 43 in their quarterfinal win, which the folks at Fordham say ties the most points scored in a game at Rose Hill Gymnasium. So.
Okay, so you're saying that Boogie was in the Boogie Down and got 43 at Fordham. Okay,
he was, and he's on there. He's back there again tonight, trying to get his team into the championship game. It's 8 o'clock for his game, and then St. Ray's and Nazareth are in the first game. And there's a guy who's a freshman at St. Ray's, Anderson Diaz, who the entire Castle Hill section of the Bronx shows out for him every game. He's got an entourage. He's a freshman. He's got an entourage that reminded me of the old days of like Felipe Lopez when he was at Rice High School. They've got sweatshirts that say Mr. Diaz on it. He's super fun to watch as well. So that's the other matchup too. And by the way, Nazareth is a team. I don't know if you've ever dealt with this, John, before. I know I'm in stoppage time here, but they scored 2 points in the fourth quarter of their quarterfinal, and they won.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Only 2 points.
Wow.
And they won by 3.
Far out. I have not.
I've never seen a team score 2 points in the fourth quarter and win a game, but
No doubt. I have not either. I've seen that kind of thing in overtime where there's no shot clock and you're kind of doing 4 corners to kill the time and try to drive and get a foul and get folks in foul trouble. Dylan, as always, my friend, great to have you on to break everything down in Major League Soccer. Enjoy your varsity medias, enjoy the OSDBs, and enjoy MLSsoccer.com and the matches this weekend and the CONCACAF Hemispheric Extravaganza again tonight. We'll catch up with you next week, my friend.
All right, buddy.
All right. That's Dylan Butler.
See you, Dylan. Also, I just, as I'm about to take my leave, I do want to share this information from Ben Wright, though, in case you had any expectation about tomorrow night's game. Gary Smith says that Hadi Mukhtar has had a slower recovery than initially hoped, but has started fully training. Might be available tomorrow night. Sam Surridge will not be available. That bus, the bus will be parked.
And in our the bus will be parked in this one, and so we will catch up with you hopefully tomorrow on a very stacked show, sir.
That's the hope. Yes.
All right. Jarrett's going to go and do real world things like that, where he's employed. Apparently, the Assembly supporters group, to our lead story this morning, talking about the supporter section, the seated supporter section at Geodis, where you can wear whatever jersey that you want. And I'm anticipating that when Messi and friends go to Geodis to take on Nashville, you're going to see a lot of pink. You're going to see a lot of Barca. You're going to see a lot of Messi in the building. And it might even be in the seated supporters section. So the Assembly, which is a Nashville supporters group, member of the Backline and ISC supporters. So the Assembly came out with a statement about 25 minutes ago. As many of you know, the prices for the upcoming Champions Cup match have been greatly inflated. I would say that's supply and demand, but that's just me. After learning ticket prices are set by the club and not CONCACAF, we're disappointed NSC had taken the route of greed over creating a great home atmosphere to help push the boys in gold to a victory. Many fans priced out of the Leagues Cup final last year. Chance for NSC to do the right thing. So the Assembly is hot about the ticket price, and paragraph 2 has to do with our lead story. We are now learning that NSC is selling tickets to away fans in the seated supporter section for this match and others going forward. This poses risk for fans in those sections, and this is very irresponsible for NSC to be doing this. So that is the Assembly's point of view heading into this particular match. So you got that this morning going on in Nashville. Now, let's get back into what we were discussing with Carlo Ancelotti and all the news of the morning. We've got Jude Bellingham. We've got Carlo Ancelotti. We've got news. We got stuff. And we'll try to be out of here. Sam Kerr, yes, that is definitely a part of it as well. We are going to try, Dell, when it comes to the Sam Kerr story, go with sources that are not the 3- and 4-letter paper. We will do it that way, as opposed to chasing after what the 3- and 4-letter paper like to do with their headlines. So, all right, Carlo Ancelotti. This happened before the show started this morning. And Carlo Ancelotti, he might be in a bit of trouble. Ben Rumsby at The Telegraph, quote, Carlo Ancelotti's become the latest football icon to be accused of tax fraud, for which he could face almost 5 years in prison if convicted. Spanish prosecutors announced this morning they're pursuing him for allegedly defrauding the tax man. And what is it that we always say about the tax man? Defrauding the tax man of €1 million. €1 million. An offense punishable with jail time of 4 years and 9 months. Accused of using shell companies to hide parts of his income during his first stint at the club a decade ago. Like I said, what do we always say about the tax man? The tax man is undefeated. Prosecutors claim Ancelotti only declared the income he received from Real and not income from image rights instead creating a confusing system to conceal his extra earnings. And this is the time from 2013 to 2015. Recent years have seen a crackdown in Spain on tax fraud by top football figures. You remember Jose Mourinho. He got a 1-year suspended sentence after pleading guilty in 2019. Messi and Ronaldo have also been found guilty of tax fraud. Messi got a 21-month prison sentence, later reduced to a fine by the Spanish courts for offenses related to his time at Barca. Ronaldo got a 23-month sentence and an 18 million euro fine linked to his stint at Real. Didn't serve any jail time because those with prison sentences of less than 2 years in Spain usually released on probation. Xabi Alonso was acquitted of tax fraud by the Spanish courts. So now, when it comes to Carlo Ancelotti, man is going to be facing the tax man. And that is never really a proposition that you want to be facing. So Carlo Ancelotti's in a bit of trouble. Allegedly, possibly, probably, perhaps, maybe, when it comes to what we're seeing out of Carlo Ancelotti. The way that it was phrased by our friends at The Athletic, and I mean, literally, if this is what the tax man is alleging for Carlo Ancelotti. Literally, it's like you got a company, and then you're like, okay, here we go. I'm going to go over here and put it in this company, and then I'm going to change things. All right, so from The Athletic, Guillermo Rai. Charges against Ancelotti involve 2 offenses against the public treasury. Despite declaring himself as a tax resident in Spain and listing his domicile as Madrid, he allegedly failed to include income from image rights in his tax returns, purportedly engaged in the simulation of image rights to entities lacking real activity and resided outside Spain. According to Rai, the strategies aim to obscure the true beneficiary of the income of his image rights, thus evading taxes both in Spain and abroad. Also, he's been accused, Ancelotti, of signing private contracts, assigning his image rights to entities for substantial sums, later modifying the agreements to reduce prices significantly. Additionally, it is claimed he assigned 50% of his image rights to Real Madrid while retaining ownership through an undisclosed partnership. My head hurts. According to the prosecutor's office, Ancelotti's tax declaration showed negative balances due to omitted income from image rights exploitation, resulting in tax refunds. The total loss suffered by the Spanish treasury, including omitted real estate properties abroad, is estimated at 1.06 million euro. Papers filed by the prosecutor's office in 2020 claimed Ancelotti concealed revenues intending to avoid his tax duties toward the public treasury with no justification, end quote. Complaint stated in July of 2013, he allegedly sold his image rights for 10 years to an entity called Vapia Limited at a purchase price of 25 million euro. A day later, Vapia Limited is said to have appointed the Italian as a proxy, quote, granting him the maximum powers of action to manage the image rights in exchange for the amount of €1, end quote. So that's what Ancelotti's up to right now. It is sliding and shaving and allegedly trying to send things one way and not report. And here comes the Spanish tax man. So you got that you're looking at. All right, Sam Kerr. We're going there. We're going to the Guardian. Jack Snape. Lawyers for Sam Kerr will attempt to have a criminal charge of racially aggravated harassment thrown out in a UK court hearing in April. Kerr appeared in a Kingston Crown Court on Monday accused of using insulting, threatening, or abusive words that caused alarm or distress to a police officer in January 2023. 4-day trial currently scheduled for February of 25. However, Kerr may not have to face trial if her lawyers are successful in having the charge downgraded or dismissed. Monday, she entered a not guilty plea. Documents filed by Kerr's legal team show they will argue an abuse of process by Crown prosecutors, according to multiple media reports. Arguments will be heard in a court hearing set for the 26th of April. The allegation relates to an incident involving a police officer who was responding to a complaint involving a taxi fare on January 30th of last year. Metropolitan Police confirmed she was charged on the 21st of January this year, almost a year since the incident allegedly occurred. In the UK, harassment convictions can include a sentence of up to 2 years if the offense is racially aggravated. Kerr is yet to comment on the allegation, which Football Australia said it only learned of in the media Tuesday morning. Tony Gustafsson also told the media, the Matildas coach, he had no notice of Kerr's court appearance. Kerr's club Chelsea is yet to address the allegations. Kerr injured her knee in January and is expected to miss much of 2024. So that is the Sam Kerr discussion. And like I said, we were going through the Guardian and not the 3 and the 4 letter paper with all of the conversation that is engaged with what's going on in that particular case. Jude Bellingham also gets 2 games in a suspension for the discussion that Bart and Maddie and Jarrett had on Monday about the incident that happened at the end of the match where Jude Bellingham ends up getting a red, sent off during the end of the full-time whistle by referee Jesus Gil Manzano, bringing the game to a close at 2-2. Remember, Bellingham thought he scored after the final whistle had blown, and apparently after Manzano had notified Real Madrid and presumably Valencia heard that this was the last act of the match, and that act happens, and it was before Bellingham put the ball in the back of the net. Whistle goes, matches at 2, and then Bellingham said some colorful metaphors or colorful predicate adjectives that didn't go over well with the center referee. Signal for full time came with Madrid still on the attack following a corner. Whistle blown just as Bellingham headed it in the cross from Brahim Diaz. Became clear the goal had come after the whistle, and Bellingham, along with a lot of his teammates, argued against the decision. Gil Manzano then showed Bellingham the straight red for dissent. Official referee match report published online an hour after the game. Quote, in minute 999, or 90, it's seek, basically, in the 99th minute, the player, Bellingham, Jude Victor William, was sent off for the following motive. After the end of the game and while still on the pitch, he came running over to me in an aggressive way, shouting repeatedly, "It's an effing goal." And he didn't use the word effing, close quote. Club argued that Bellingham's words were not offensive or insulting, but the RFEF, the Spanish Federation, found insufficient evidence to overturn the referee's original decision to dismiss him. Bellingham will now miss matches against Celta de Vigo and Osasuna, although the suspension is open to an appeal. Madrid was down by 2. Duro and Yaremchuk scored within 3 minutes of each other in the first half. Vinicius Jr. pulls one back in added time in the first half. Madrid's first time back at the Mestalla after last season's May encounter where Vinicius Jr. was subjected to racist abuse before and during the match. And La Liga is investigating after a video of a child allegedly calling Vinicius Jr. You may as well just roll us back on the calendar to 0. All right, here we go. 0 days since stupidity down here, allegedly. La Liga is investigating after a video of a child allegedly calling Vinicius Jr. a monkey surfaced on social media following Saturday's match. Mario Cortegana, once again at The Athletic. Video was posted by ESPN Brazil. Speaking to the publication after the match, the woman who recorded the incident said that police were called during the match. Previously, La Liga has reported incidents of alleged racism to the local authorities. So Vinicius Jr. goes to the Mestalla, May of 2023, subjected to racist abuse by the fans, hundreds of them in quotation marks, according to a report by the RFEF, the Spanish Football Federation, as well as instances during the match. Then Vinicius Jr. scored twice to draw it at 2. And Vinicius Jr. had the best revenge, cupped his ears, raised a fist toward the Valencia supporters. which I thought was a fantastic moment. Revenge on the field by Vinicius Jr. Valencia at the time last year moved to ban 3 fans identified as having racially abused Vinicius Jr., initially being hit with a 3-match stadium ban. Vinicius Jr. testified about the incidents in court back in October. Valencia and La Liga had been planning for months to try and minimize the chances of trouble and to ensure swift action was taken if anything did happen. We see how that went. So Jude Bellingham ends up with a 2-match suspension for his effing tirade. And we end up with more stupidity down here. And it's not the only incident of stupidity, but yes, we will roll the billboard back to a 0 days since our last incident of stupidity. And Dell, I don't know what the dynamic was involving Sam Kerr and the taxi. I don't know if it was, it is quite a gap between incident, charge, and trial. But Dale, once again, assuming tried to charge her too much for a taxi. Don't know what the incident was that, or what the element was that sent things into that particular element of the discussion. So yesterday in Champions League, PSG beat Real Sociedad 2-1, 4-1 in the aggregate. Mbappe had a very busy day. Harry Kane got Bayern a 3-0 win over Lazio, 3-1 in the aggregate. So Bayern moves along. And we've got more action in Champions League today, going over the juice boxes in Champions League. Remember, it's just a couple of matches. Remember, also Erling Haaland saying what he said. Not saying that I'm not saying I'm leaving Manchester City, but I'm not saying I'm not. Especially with all the ties to Real Madrid. Juice boxes today in Champions League. Both matches 3:00. Manchester City minus 714 in the composite against FC Copenhagen. FC Copenhagen to win the match, not reverse the goal deficit. To win the match today is almost a plus 1,800. And draw of the match today is a plus 860. Real Madrid at home against RB Leipzig. Real Madrid at home is a minus 182 to win the match today. Draw is a plus 367. RB Leipzig is a plus 467. So that is your numbers in Champions League today. Once again, you end up with next week the other 8 teams in their matchups next Tuesday and Wednesday. Arsenal, Porto, Barca, Napoli, Atletico Madrid, Inter, and Dortmund and PSV. Those 4 matches are next Tuesday and Wednesday. So the Premier League is in both weeks. But today, Manchester City hosting Copenhagen, Real Madrid hosting RB Leipzig. Once again, we'll go over the viewership plans coming up in just a little bit and let you know what else is going on around the planet. There were some other stories that had popped up along the day, and to get you ready for everything that's going on, Martin Ziegler had a story for those that were trying to keep an eye on stuff. Martin Ziegler is basically the only reason that I subscribe to the Times newspaper, and then you have to figure out, all right, so is it worth what's going on to do the one subscription? And the interesting stories that came out from the Times today specifically have to do with once again the Premier League, and this is why I follow Martin Ziegler, and you should too over at the Times. Headline: Premier League clubs face sanctions for inflating sponsorship deals. Guess who this is aimed at? From Ziegler, Premier League clubs will face sanctions if they try to secure inflated sponsorship or transfer deals with companies, organizations, or other teams connected to their owners. New rules published in the Top Flight's handbook have revealed revised rules, which caused a bitter split in the league last month, much tougher and aimed to block clubs bypassing financial controls by earning unfair amounts via means such as sponsorship from a company linked to an owner or by signing a player cheaply from another club in the same ownership group. Premier League clubs can now be charged with a breach of the rules if they do not, quote, use all reasonable care, end quote, to ensure deals are of fair market value. Should rule breaches occur, there will be no fixed tariff or sanctions. All penalties will be available to an independent commission, depending on the severity of the offense. Detail of the new rules helps explain why some clubs were pushing strongly for them and why state-connected clubs such as Manchester City and Newcastle United, or those in multi-club ownership models, were so fiercely opposed. Burden of proof is now on clubs to show deals with associated companies or organizations are of fair market value, in quotation marks. The deals include sponsorship agreements with connected companies, put the onus on the clubs to ensure they don't try to push the limits of fairness on the deal. Clubs are now required to provide a declaration from a director of the associated party that they consider the deal to be a fair market value. So basically, here's a piece of paper. Yes, it's a fair market value. We agree with the club. Liverpool, Manchester United, Arsenal, and Spurs voted in favor, outstripped by Manchester City in terms of commercial income. And this was interesting from Ziegler. City sponsorship deals for 22-23 were worth 13.6 times more than they were at the time of the takeover in 2008, growing from 25 million 15 years ago to 341.4 million pounds now. During that same period of time, United's have gone up 4.7 to 302.9 million, Liverpool's 5 times to 272 million. So you have burden of proof, associated party transactions, and breaches of the rules are failure by a club to use all reasonable care, and Premier League can demand evidence to follow along, to sit there and say, yes, it is, no, it's not, and you go in front of a tribunal to sit there and go, yeah, it is, and then the other guys, well, no, it's not. And you get into these kind of arguments, and what do you want to bet? Things will get rubber stamped all the way through, and you'll have a lot of sound and fury signifying nothing, like our guy Bill Shakespeare has always been prone to say. So you got all that. All right, 8 minutes to go. Gossip, rumor, and innuendo. We'll go through all of that. We'll go through what to watch, and if there's anything else on your minds collectively, we'll talk about it on a Wall Pass Wednesday once again. It doesn't matter what's on the table. Wall Pass Wednesday, you bring your thoughts, I bring ours. Thanks once again to Tyler Pilgrim at Scarves and Spikes. Scarves and Spikes on the 280 character app. Great to have him on in hour number 1 on Wall Pass Wednesdays. Great to have Dylan Butler talking Major League Soccer on Wall Pass Wednesdays as well. Here's your gossip. Manchester United sent scouts to watch Bologna striker Joshua Zirkzee against Atalanta last week. Arsenal retain an interest in Zirkzee, who could cost €80 million. Manchester City set to beat Liverpool to the signing of Joshua Kimmich this summer. Liverpool interested in Wolves winger Pedro Neto, concerned about his injury record. Crystal Palace drawing up a list of center-back targets, with Mark Gahey expected to be sold for more than £15 million. Sporting Lisbon manager Ruben Amorim, Barcelona's top target to succeed Xavi at the end of the year, although Amorim is of interest to Liverpool. Bayern Munich interested in Bayer Leverkusen's wing-back Jeremy Frimpong, who's got a release clause between 40 and 45 million euro. Newcastle in talks with Bournemouth to sign Lloyd Kelly on a free. That's from the 4-letter paper. Take the information at your own peril. Manchester United have opened talks with Kobe Mainu over an improved contract. Any club looking to appoint Roberto De Zerbi this summer is going to have to pay Brighton £12 million in compensation. Barcelona listening to offers for Pedri this summer because of worries over his injury history. Everton are tracking Hull City defender Jacob Greaves amid interest in the England U21 center back Jared Branthwaite for Manchester United and Spurs. Hull City also want to pursue a permanent move for on-loan Liverpool winger Fabio Carvalho if they win promotion to the Premier League. Manchester United expected to make an approach to Crystal Palace for sporting director Dougie Friedman. And Manchester United also interested in appointing Southampton director of football Jason Wilcox as a technical director. So that is your gossip, rumor, and innuendo stage 1. And we'll get into the papers and see if we have missed anything or anyone else. Once again, the De Zerbi £12 million price tag is right now at the top of the discussions. Daily Telegraph, Sir Jim Ratcliffe wants a technical and performance director as a part of his 4-pronged overhaul of the football operations, with Omar Barada already appointed, Dan Ashworth set to follow, and that's where Jason Wilcox comes into play. Sheffield United set for a complete reboot this summer with a significant number of players ready to become free agents and others set to be moved on. The number, I think, is 10. It is going to be a mass exodus. There will be some that are out of contract, some that could be flipped, some that could have the option of staying if they wanted to, but if relegation is a part of the discussion, then they're free to go. Chris Wilder is expected to use youngsters once the relegation fate is sealed. Avoiding the 3 and the 4-letter paper as we always do. In the Guardian, Arsenal facing criticism for failing to stop a pro-Palestine rally. After Jewish fans said they felt intimidated into walking away before the WSL match against Spurs on Sunday. Mirror, William Gallas is concerned by Chelsea's financial plight and suspects they'll have to sell a player like Mykhailo Mudryk in the summer if former suitors Arsenal make a sufficient offer. Everton keeping tabs on Jacob Greaves. Avoiding the 4-letter paper once again. That takes us to the Scottish papers. Spanish police confiscated weapons, including ice axes, hammers, and golf clubs after searching 20 vehicles they'd been monitoring ahead of rumors of organized brawls involving supporters of Champions League opponents Real Sociedad and PSG. Liverpool looking to Asia for a fresh income stream after agreeing a partnership with Swire Properties to open an Anfield experience, in quotation marks, for fans in China and Hong Kong. And Daily Record, Avi Luzon, the president of Liel Abada's former club, Maccabi Petah Tikva, says that the Celtic and Israel winger was left with no choice but to leave the club after treatment from fans who've shown consistent support for Palestine. So that is the papers, according to our friends at Sky. Now, what to watch, where to watch it. And once again, we'll go over our friends at the Marshall Islands. We'll go through all the promos and get you ready for yet another day before we go. So what to watch, where to watch it today. Soccer on the TVs. BN's got Copa Libertadores and Copa Sudamericana. Copa Sudamericana is at 5 o'clock involving Unión La Calera. Libertadores is at 7:30. Sportivo Trinidense and Colo Colo. 9 o'clock, Alianza Petrolera and America de Cali. BN and Español is simulcasting. If you don't have BN and you're interested in Libertadores and Sudamericana and all the other things that BN does, you can pick them up at Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. Helps out the network, helps out Fanatis. And if you really want to add to your degenerate viewing, it is For the Fans, Teise. It is CDO, BN, Liga 1 Max, all that you can get in one place on Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. CBS, big CBS, has Champions League at 3 o'clock with Manchester City and Copenhagen. Once again, if you are in a market with a CBS affiliate that's got a 4 o'clock newscast, normally that's not going to happen. So your news at your favorite CBS affiliate is going to be starting a little late, unless they have a secondary channel and they'll do it over there at 4 o'clock and roll it over at 5 or shortly thereafter. CBS Sports Network, Europa League is Sporting and Atalanta at 12:45. FS2 has the CONCACAF Hemispheric Extravaganza triple header. Revs and Alajuelense at 6 from Gillette. Houston and Columbus at 8 from Helena Shell. Chivas and Club America from Estadio Akron at 10 o'clock. Being in Español, as we said, simulcasting Libertadores and Sudamericana. ESPN Deportes has the W Gold Cup semis. Remember, Brazil and Mexico at 7. U.S. and Canada at 10:15. TUDN, simulcasting Manchester City, Copenhagen, and Chivas and Club America. Univision, simulcasting at Manchester City and Copenhagen. On the Plus Championship, QPR and West Brom at 3. They're simulcasting the Gold Cup semis. Paramount Plus has the Asian Champions League. They've got Champions League. They've got Europa League. They have the Gold Cup semis, the English language broadcast, and Argentina's Copa de la Liga. Starting at 3 o'clock, they got 5 matches, 1 at 3, 2 at 5:15, 2 at 7:30. VIX has Champions League, Europa League, and the 6 and the 8 o'clock for CONCACAF Champions League. Once again, thanks to our friends at North Oconee yesterday. What is the game of the day? Probably by default. Well, actually, you know what? Game of the day is your CONCACAF Champions League stuff. That the 6, the 8, and the 10. To keep an eye on that because it applies directly to what's going on in Major League Soccer and the big matchup in Liga MX that carries over for the 10 o'clock game in CONCACAF Champions Cup. So I would go 6, 8, and 10 CONCACAF Champions Cup. The Hemispheric Extravaganza would be my matches of the day, Del, because you think that the lineups we went over the juice boxes kind of lopsided when it comes to Champions League. So I'll say CONCACAF Champions Cup, the 6, the 8, and the 10. Those to me are the matches of the day. Also, on the board, you're looking at a lot of different things going on. Follow the news of the day and keep an eye on what's going on in your favorite part of the world. Once again, thanks to our friends at North Oconee yesterday for North Oconee and for Johnson Gainesville. Thanks to the coaches for both the boys and the girls sides for helping us with great broadcasts on both and a monsoon at points. Soccerdownhere.mixlr.com is where you can grab all of our live games. Next one is tomorrow, the doubleheader with Clarkston and Druid Hills. Then Friday, Collins Hill and Mill Creek. Soccerdownhere.mixlr.com. You can listen to all of our high school content. All of our live content is on our Mixler channels all season long. But the high school content, doubleheader Thursday, doubleheader Friday, and then there's something called Atlanta United on Saturday night as they go up against New England Revolution. Once again, let's go through the housekeeping of the day. Stacked day tomorrow. Bart's going to come on cranky at the top of the show to talk about what happened in the semifinal with the U.S. and Canada. Jason will be joining us from practice, or just before practice, for Atlanta United as they get ready for the Revs at 9:30 in the 9:30 half hour. 10 o'clock, Kaylor Hodges from the USL show. He and his merry band of renown will be in to discuss the beginning of the season in USL Championship, USL League One, and that will start their monthly appearances. 10:30, Nika Moreno will discuss what's going on the West Coast from the Pacific perspective, De La Vega, Schmetzer, all those kinds of things. Now, once again, before we go, here is our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. There's your QR code for those of you who are watching on the 280-character app, on our YouTube channel, or on Twitch. There's your QR code. Click on that QR code, get you to Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Don't forget to use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get your purchase 15% off. They, in turn, take 10%, reinvest it into the Youth Game Youth Initiative stuff that they have earmarked. Very, very cool things from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Hot change. There's your scarf. That's the scarf to help out our friends at the Marshall Islands. Marshall Islands Soccer Federation raising funds so they can grow the final nation on this planet to have a national soccer team. They were in Northwest Arkansas last week. They're building the futsal program, becoming acquainted with the Marshallese that are here in the United States so they can build the programs, both futsal and football. Looking to come back in the fall. And this is the scarf that we have put together that they have endorsed to help out our friends at the Marshall Islands. 32. And if you are local here in the SDH footprint, $32, and the Abstermobile will deliver it to you. If you are outside the SDH footprint or you are somewhere where the Abstermobile cannot get to, we can throw it in the mail for another $5. So 32 and 5. You reach out to me. You can Venmo me. You can Venmo the show. Reach out to the show, however you want to do it. That helps out the Marshall Islands as they build a program from scratch. And we are going to continue to follow this story and be a part of the story and continue to watch the build because it is more than just about soccer and building a national soccer program. So we're going to keep an eye on it. This is how we are helping from ground zero, from the absolute beginnings of the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation. That's the scarf. You can pick that up here or go to the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation website, and you can order it there as well. Once again, $32. If you're local, Abby will deliver it to you. If you're not local, we can throw it in the mail for an additional $5. Reach out to me on social media. Email me, email the show, however you want to do it, and you can help out the Marshall Islands. So, busy day across the board. Folks in trouble with John Law, and that's never a good thing. Folks in trouble with the tax man, and the tax man is undefeated. So we'll keep an eye on all that stuff. Champions League, Europa League, that's starting to roll. More Europa and Europa Conference League tomorrow. Stacked show tomorrow. Busy show Friday to get you ready for what's going on as Major League Soccer gets back in here in the Southeast footprint with Atlanta United and the Revs. We'll be back at it again 9:05 tomorrow morning. Once again, thanks to Tyler Pilgrim, thanks to Dylan Butler, and thanks to all of you for hanging out with us here on SDH. Back at it again in a little under 22 hours. Mucha plati, I'll play it safe, and since it's the end of the show, that means I get to do this. Back at it again, 9:05, talking U.S. Women's National Team, the W Gold Cup, with Bart Keeler and the Soccer for U.S. POD first thing tomorrow morning. See you then. Play it safe. And we'll be back at it tomorrow. Stay dry, stay safe. See you Thursday.